Hope everybody out there is having a great Thursday and you're getting set to have a fantastic weekend. We're almost to Friday and the weekend. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, thank you so much for supporting the show. And if you want Niners shows every single day year-round, be sure to lock us in. Hit that subscribe button as we approach 160,000 subscribers. Coming up here on the show, I'm going to explain why 49ers fans, despite a rough start to free agency, should feel optimistic and excited about the future of this organization. Now, keep in mind, I've had problems with what the Niners have done to start free agency. I know that they wanted to get younger. They've accomplished that. I understand why they wanted to clear up some cash now and in the future. I get it. But I think they've gone a little bit too overboard with some of the players they have let go. But I can see what they're thinking with their plan moving ahead. A pretty good center is available too on the free agency market after being let go by the Minnesota Vikings. So we're going to talk about that. And then we'll run through all of the moves that the Niners have made so far in NFL free agency. So as we sit here, day 4 of the free agency period, it is Thursday, March 13th. And we have seen this Niners roster get gutted to a certain degree. They have moved on from a lot of marquee players who have played big roles in the Niners' recent success, making it to all of these NFC championship games, making it to 2 Super Bowls since 2019, being fan favorites and organizational favorites. This Niners team in 2025 is going to look a lot different. And what the Niners' plan appears to be, instead of spreading out dead cap money over the course of multiple seasons, it looks as though the Niners are going to take it all on this year in 2025. And right now that number is an astounding $86 million. Now, other teams across the NFL have been successful with this type of strategy, right? The Los Angeles Rams kind of tore it down to a certain degree while remaining competitive and eating some dead cap dollars. Last year, the Buffalo Bills took on $30+ million in dead cap money, $31 million. And they actually improved, going from 11-6 to 13-4 and making it to the AFC Championship game. And a team like the Philadelphia Eagles took on a lot of dead money. They still won Super Bowl 59 with the most talented and loaded roster in the NFL while having to eat a lot of dead money from previous contracts. And so the Niners here are going to take on all of this dead money. I've seen a lot of people in my mentions saying, Buffalo did it, so can the Niners. Well, the difference between the Bills and the Niners is that the Bills have Josh Allen. He is an alien quarterback. And as far as skill set goes and ability, there's a wide gap between him and Brock Purdy. Don't get me wrong. And I know a lot of you are probably already in the comment section saying, Chase, you're a hater. What are you talking about? Get out of here. I'm going to unsubscribe. This is clickbait. You're the worst. Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback. He is not Josh Allen. The Bills let go of Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs and Leonard Floyd, and they improved greatly. Josh Allen should have been the NFL MVP, or at least more apart, or he was the NFL MVP, right? He was the NFL MVP. And good for him. One NFL MVP. And what he did was pretty incredible with a wide receiver core that wasn't elite by any means. Brock Purdy's not able to do that. Brock Purdy is a good to very good quarterback who needs good parts around him. So the Niners might take on that dead cap charge, but I don't think they're a team that's going to improve all the way to 13 wins. Can they be better from 6-11? For sure. No doubt about it. And with the Niners taking on that dead cap charge of $86 million, handling it now, probably a good strategy. I can see why they're going that route instead of spreading it out over multiple years for the foreseeable future. You get rid of it now, you get a bunch of cap space in the 2026 offseason to reload this roster to a certain degree. And some of the players they're electing to not re-sign, older players and or injury-prone players. So that's a part of the Niners' plan, okay? And if they get all this cap space for 2026 and beyond, that's a reason to be excited about what the Niners are doing and what their plan is. A directionless business, a directionless organization with no plan, always a bad place to be. So if that is the Niners' plan, I could see what they're doing. I like it. If they have plans to use some of their organizational money to invest in a soccer team overseas and then pinch pennies and be cheap moving forward, I have a massive issue with it. And if that's the direction, I will hate it, and I will call out Jed York as long as I talk about this football team. And I won't let him hear the end of it. Because when you have an organization that's won 5 Super Bowls, that's been a cash cow, that's worth $9 billion, where you sold a small stake for $900 million, if you're going to be cheap moving ahead, that's idiotic. So hopefully the Niners are saving this money, or at least allotting that cash in the future to use to improve their team in 2026 and in future years. The other part of this that should get fans excited, when we were talking to John Lynch at the NFL Combine, what did he say? We want to get younger. We've been one of the highest cash spending teams. We need to reset a little bit, and we want to build through the draft. Building through the draft brings me to this point. Right now, the 49ers, as things stand right now, it could change, have 21 picks in the next 2 NFL drafts. Usually teams have about 7 picks, averaging 1 pick per round in the NFL draft. That would be 14 picks in 2 years. The Niners have 21, including 12 selections in the first 4 rounds in the next 2 NFL drafts. If the Niners are in fact resetting and rebuilding, this is a good way to do that. Because as I've talked about here on the show, when you build through the draft, these players are cost-controlled assets and very affordable over the next 4 or 5 years. And if the 49ers are trying to manage the cap, but they can hit in the draft, those players will be affordable, impactful guys that can really go a long way in turning around this team very quickly. Now, of course, if the Niners miss on a lot of those picks, it will set this organization back because already this is a team that's not that deep and is a little bit light on talent. Lastly, for why fans should be excited about this team and optimistic, this is still a team going into 2025 that will have a last place schedule and still has Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Aiyuk if he can return to form, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Diamador Lenore, and Malik Mustafa. That's a decent core to build with. They need a lot more help and a lot more players, but it's a decent core for 2025. So those are all of the reasons why San Francisco should be excited and optimistic about the Niners for the future. I have concerns, but we can go positive spin zone here. As for a player who San Francisco could bring in, Garrett Bradbury, center for the Minnesota Vikings, expected to be released by Minnesota. He has started 88 games over the last 6 years. In the pre-draft process when he was coming out of college, the Niners said publicly they were a big fan of his. He went to NC State. He was drafted in the first round in 2019, pick 18 overall. He has spent his entire career with Minnesota. He won the Remington Trophy, which is an illustrious award for an offensive lineman at that center spot in college football. He is very experienced, playing in 88 games over the last 6 years. And what the Vikings are trying to do, rebuild the trenches to a certain degree and get more physical and a little bit beefier in the trenches. Now, Garrett Bradbury would be a good scheme fit for San Francisco. They like the player. He is 29, soon to be 30. I asked our Vikings host, Patrick Seatman, he knows ball. What do you know about Garrett Bradbury? He said, probably the 25th best center in the league. And I'm like, well, shoot. Jake Brendel is probably 28 to 32. But for Bradbury, good scheme fit. Niners like him. He'd be a little bit of an upgrade. And he's played in 88 games and started 88 games for Minnesota. And if he's a slight upgrade at that center spot and a good scheme fit for San Francisco, and they liked him prior to the draft, could they bring him in at a pretty affordable rate? That is a possibility because a lot of teams had their center positions, startering-wise, fulfilled. So Garrett Bradbury, a player who I would be intrigued by if I'm San Francisco. This 49ers polo that you've seen me wear a lot on watch parties, this one right here, even though this one is fresh as well, is on sale. Thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Was $80, now $43. Check it out. Save money, support the squad, support us, and look good in the process. Chatsports.com/49polo. Niners free agency moves. Sign Luke Farrell, 3 years, 20 and a quarter, $11 million guaranteed. Luke Farrell is going to be utilized as a blocker and a tight end too. The Niners missed a quality blocking tight end too last year after not having Charlie Warner and Ross Dwelly. So think Charlie Warner, Ross Dwelly when you think about Farrell. But $11 million guaranteed is a lot for a guy who's not going to be a great pass catcher. Also has special teams value, though. Patrick Taylor, special teams value. Niners put a second-round tender on Jordan Mason. If he's on the Niners next year, he'll play at $5.3 million. If another team wants to poach him, they have to forfeit a second-round pick for a player who, starting caliber. Richie Grant, safety, former second-round pick, upside, ability, starting experience, special teams value. Luke Gifford, one of the top special teams linebackers in the NFL. So a lot of special teams players have been signed by the Niners as they tried to improve that unit, which was awful last year and has been bad the last few years. Kevin Givens, rotational defensive tackle. Jason Pinnock, really good player. When operating downhill, you can use him as a blitzer. Really good player, making tackles in the backfield. Long, good athlete. Not great in coverage, but if you utilize him to his strengths, he could be a good player for this team. Demarcus Robinson had more than 500 yards receiving last year and 7 touchdowns, 16 yards per catch. Every year he's been in the NFL. He's made the playoffs. Vertical threat, good red zone guy. 2 years, $9.5 million, $6 million guaranteed. Good deal. Trey Brown, undersized DB, former 5th-round pick out of Oklahoma by Seattle. Special teams ability, 1 year, $2 million. And then last night, the Niners signing Mac Jones, 2 years, $11.5 million, to be the backup behind Brock Purdy. What's crazy is that, as it stands right now, his base salary and earnings will be more than Brock Purdy for 2025, unless Purdy gets that contract extension and the 2025 number is changed. Kyle Shanahan loved him in the pre-draft in 2021, finally gets this guy. And I think he's a good scheme fit for Shanahan. Shanahan has maximized quarterbacks. Mac Jones has been on awful teams with awful offenses. This is an opportunity to get right. So I like it. Who should the Niners sign next? Drop me a name or names down in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe.